Hello everyone. Today we will focus on understanding the structure and basic properties of a pandas data frame. Before performing any analysis on data, it is very important to understand what the data contains, how it is organized, and whether there are any missing or incorrect values or not. So today's topic will help us to explore and inspect data in a meaningful way. Usually we perform analysis on huge data sets like the one you can see on your screen. But to understand the performance of analysis more easily and in a meaningful way, we will use our own data frame. So here, as you can see, we have started with importing the essential libraries of pandas. Then we have created our own sample data frame. This data set represents basic employee information, which is commonly used in real-world data analysis. Now, let's start with understanding the data frame structure. There are three main attributes of data frame structure that includes index, axis, and data types. Let's start with the first attribute, which is index. The index represents the row labels of a data frame. It helps Panda to uniquely identify each row of data, and for that we use attribute df.index. Here we can clearly see that it has represented the row labels, and by default the index starts from 0 and then increase by 1. Now moving on to the next one, which is axis. Axis describes the two dimensions of a data frame. Axis attribute is defined by df.axis attribute. Here, as you can see, axis 0 refers to row and axis 1 refers to column. Understanding axis becomes important when performing operations across rows or column. Moving on to the next one, which is data type. Each column in a data frame has a specific data type, such as integer, float, or object. Checking data type helps us to avoid errors during calculation and conversion, and for this we use the attributes df.dtypes. Here, the data type of each column is being represented like object for name, float 64 for age, object for city, and int 64 for salary. Now moving on to the next part, which is data inspection method. For data inspection, there are two main methods that includes info method and describe method. Let's start with the first one, which is info method. The info method gives a complete overview of the data frame. It shows column names, data types, numbers of non-null values, and memory usage. This is usually the first method used when working with a new dataset, and for that we use to define it by the method df.info. Here, as you can see, the method have provided us with the overview of the data frame, which include the column names, data types, and number of non-null values along with the memory usage at last. Moving on to the next one, which is describe. The describe method provides statistical information for numerical columns. It helps us to understand the distribution of data, such as average salary or age range, and it is defined by the method df.describe. Here, as you can see, we are being provided with the statistical information, and here it has provided us with the distribution of data that includes the average salary, then standard deviation, along with min and max. Now, moving on to the next part, which is related with analyzing unique values. To analyze unique value, we use three main methods that includes unique and unique and then value counts. So starting with the first one, which is unique. The unique method returns all distinct values in a column. This is useful when we want to know different categories in data, and for that we use the function method df.unique. Let's say we are gonna find a distinct value of the attribute city. Here we can clearly see that it has provided us with the useful information of the distinct value in the column. Like for city, it has provided us with the name of the city. Moving on to the next one, which is n unique. The n unique method gives the count of unique values. It helps in understanding the data diversity, and for that we use the attribute method df.nUnique. Here, as we can clearly see, it has provided us the count of the unique values. Now, moving on to the next one, the value counts method counts how many times each value have appeared, and for that we use the attribute df.valueCount. And for the attribute of name dot value counts. Here, the method have provided us with the counts of the times each value have appeared. It is commonly used in categorical data analysis. Now, moving on to the next part, which is type conversion. For type conversion, we use the method type. Sometimes data is not stored in the correct format, so we use the type method. It helps us to convert a column into the required data type. Here, we have defined the type. Then we have stated the data type which we required. For salary, at first it was float 64, but we have converted into integer, and the result which we have got is that the salary is being converted into integer data type. Now moving on to the next part, which is checking the missing values. To check missing values, we use two main methods that are isNull methods and notNull method. Let's start with the first one, which is isNull method. Missing values are common in real datasets, so we use isNull method, which identifies missing values and return true for them. And for that, we use the method df.isNull. As we can see, it has provided us with the missing values. Here, it has provided us in a Boolean format, like if there's a missing value, then it has returned the result of true and false if they are present. Now, moving on to the next one, which is not null method. The not null method works opposite to is null method and returns true for available values, and it is being defined by the method df.notNull. Here, comparing both is null and not null, we can clearly see that is null have provided true if the values are missing, but in case of not null, it have provided false if the values are missing. Now, moving on to the next part, which is related to data accessing using slicing. Let's start with the first one, which is row slicing. Slicing allows us to select specific rows from the data frame. And for that, we use the function tf and we define the row which we are being desired. Here, the slicing have performed operation and have provided us the row which we are gonna need. Now comes the column selection. We can access a specific column using its column name. Let's say we need to access the value of name. Here we are being provided with the column of the name. Now all these operations which we have seen are used daily by data analysts and data scientists to understand and clean data before analyzing or modeling. Today, we learned how to explore a data frame using its property, inspect data using summary function, analyze unique values, check missing data, and access rows and columns efficiently. These are foundational skills in Pandas that will be used in almost everyday analysis tasks. Thank you.